The Yahoo rankings are horrible. Like if you load into a draft, your league mates are going to be looking at the ADP. They're going to be completely lost, taking horrible values. And honestly, you can find some pretty good gems at the end of the draft. I actually am doing a draft on Yahoo at the end of this video, so I can tell you exactly how to be executing this draft strategy. But I'm going to go round by round talking about the targets and avoids that you have. Starting in round one, honestly, Yahoo's pretty good here. Yeah, the rankings are slightly different than mine. Yes, I prefer Puka Nacua. Yahoo has Nico Collins higher, but in reality, that's more of like a personal preference thing, and I could 100% be wrong, so there are no glaring weaknesses with their ADP list in round one. Round two is where things start off bad, because if we're looking at one of my favorite targets in this round of Devon Achane, I have him ranked as a round one pick. Obviously, we can get into a long explanation of why I believe Achane deserves to be a round one player, but that's for another video that will be posted later this offseason. So just make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. But Yahoo, he goes in the middle of the second round. Now, maybe you say, Mason, you're just too high on him. So what I'm also going to do as we talk about these values that are too low on Yahoo draft boards and maybe too high with the avoids, I'm going to look at the master ADP list that we've posted on flockfantasy.com. This is going to take the average of Yahoo drafts, ESPN drafts, sleeper drafts, and Underdog Fantasy drafts, so we can see what the overall fantasy football community thinks. And there, the master ADP is Devon Achane at about pick 14, right ahead of where he's going in Yahoo drafts as well. Now, after we talk about all our targets and avoids, I'm going to be diving into the actual draft strategy that you need, and you'll see that if you can find a running back out of value in a Yahoo draft, you cannot afford to pass on them. That's why I think in round two, if you can get Devon Achane, you 100% need to pull the trigger. Now, the other guy that I'd be looking at here is Brock Bowers. So in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I'm going to have Brock Bowers ranked as my 15th overall player. Now, if you had not had a chance to see how we are adjusting our fantasy football rankings based off the league format that you're playing in, I will let you know if you're in a double flex league or a triple flex league, Brock Bowers is going to slide down my rankings. And there, I'm completely fine with where he's going at the end of round two. But you will see that we have some incredible wide receiver values that you can find in drafts later on. So if you are in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format where tight end's going to make up a very high percentage of your starting lineup output weekly, I would be aggressively targeting Brock Bowers if Devon Achane's off the board. And you can probably get him. You'll see in the mock draft that we do at the end of this video that Brock Bowers does go at the 2-3 turn. Now, the round two avoids that we are going to have will be 3 separate running backs. Jonathan Taylor goes at the top of the second round in Yahoo drafts. He actually goes ahead of Devon Achane. That is very bad for a multitude of reasons. Josh Jacobs goes back-to-back with Devon Achane in the middle of round two. And if you're playing in a full PPR league, which again, you can use the draft sheets we have posted on flockfantasy.com, make sure you're using your right league settings, you'll see that Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, they don't have the receiving upside that Achane does. So there's just no reason to be taking them in that same range. And then Kyren Williams in Yahoo drafts goes at pick 25, which is actually higher than where you see Chase Brown typically go in these drafts. And I just can't imagine taking Kyren Williams over Chase Brown at this point for a multitude of reasons. But that's 3 avoid running backs in round two that I want to point out, because this is going to be a continued trend. Now, round three, I can't find any glaring avoids, any must-have targets. So we're going to skip over to round four. And round four, there are 2 players you can get strong values. It's going to be Tyreek Hill and Marvin Harrison if you're looking at the wide receivers. Tyreek's going at the 3-4 turn. Marvin Harrison's going in the middle of the 4th to the end of the 4th. And what's actually really funny is if you look at the master ADP list, you actually have Marvin Harrison going at pick 37 as well. So I guess I'm higher on Harrison, both in Yahoo drafts as well as most redraft formats. And then the best value that you could possibly get in round four is going to be Amari Hampton, who has a Yahoo ADP of pick 44, a master ADP of pick 41. And I personally have him ranked as a mid-third round pick. Maybe he slides back if we end up getting Najee Harris practicing one of these days, but does not look like that's happening anytime soon. Your round four avoids, these are guys that your league mates will probably take here and you just shun it, will be Chuba Hubbard, James Conner, and Zay Flowers. Chuba Hubbard and James Conner may project to see more volume than Amari Hampton, but they are just not nearly as talented, don't have the upside in their respective offenses, and not as good as receiving backs as Hampton is. And then with Zay Flowers, I promise you, you can get wide receivers that are just as good, 4 rounds later in Yahoo, which makes things crazy. But again, I do want to remind you that my overall rankings are going to be different dependent on the league that you are playing in. If you're in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, my ranking is going to be very different than if you're in a 12-team double flex league, because you need to be adjusting and you need to be exploiting the math behind fantasy football. For that reason, we posted 50 draft guide cheat sheets on flockfantasy.com, so you can take a draft sheet to your exact fantasy football draft and make sure you can take advantage of these values, because we actually have draft sheets for Yahoo, for ESPN, for Sleeper. And if you are drafting in a Yahoo draft, go get that. And we take into account the Yahoo ADP so you can make sure you're taking these players at good values. But I'm going to leave the link to flockfantasy.com where all those sheets are posted in the description in the comment section. It's only $34, and you also get access to all our rest of season rankings and our weekly rankings throughout the entire season until January 1st, plus everything on flockfantasy.com, including 3 other draft guides from 3 other creators, including the trade calculator, the trade finder, the player comparison, the range of outcomes, and the whole 9 yards, all the way until January 1st for only one-time payment at $34. But going over to the round 5 targets and avoids, I only have one round 5 target that I really like. I have Xavier Worthy ranked as a round 4 pick, given the Rashee Rice suspension. And you can currently get Xavier Worthy in round 5 of your Yahoo drafts. And honestly, I would rather have him straight up over Zay Flowers by a considerable amount. Now, going over and looking at our round 5 avoids, we're going to have Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, and Chris Olave. With Chris Olave, I think you can get just as good of wide receiver production later in your draft. With Sam Laporta and Joe Burrow, the one big mistake I'm seeing casual fantasy football players make is deciding to reach a little too high on these quarterback and tight end options in the middle rounds, where what you realistically need to be doing is you realistically need to either get Lamar Jackson, get Josh Allen at the very top of round 3. Maybe you take Brock Bowers or Trey McBride in rounds 2 or 3. Maybe you take George Kittle around 4. But by the time you get to round 5, the difference between a round 5 wide receiver versus a round 4 wide receiver is not going to be that much. But the difference between George Kittle in round 4 and Sam Laporta in round 5 is absolutely massive. So don't take Burrow, don't take Laporta here in the middle rounds. Instead, just get an elite quarterback earlier if you want him. And then looking at running back, Joe Mixon's injured and Yahoo doesn't have their ADP updated. David Montgomery, you have reports coming out of Detroit saying Jahmyr Gibbs going to have more of the backfield this year, and it looks like Yahoo just doesn't have their ADP updated like we do on flockfantasy.com. Now, going over to round 6, there are going to be 3 separate targets that I like. Jalen Waddle, Tet McMillan, and Trevion Henderson. And this is also going to be a big trend that I want to point out in these Yahoo drafts is with a handful of these rookies, you can get incredible values. Tet McMillan at the moment has a master ADP of pick 60 across all platforms. However, he goes at pick 70 in Yahoo. I have Trevion Henderson ranked at 54. However, he goes at pick 71 in Yahoo drafts. Also, with Jalen Waddle, for me personally, I think that he projects out just as well as Zay Flowers would. So I have no idea why anybody would take Flowers in round 4 if you can get Waddle in round 6. And then my round 6 avoids will be Chris Godwin. And really, that's about it. I think given the injury, you're just better off finding wide receiver values later. Like right now, you actually have Rome Odunze going at pick 72 in Yahoo drafts, Chris Godwin going at pick 61, despite Rome Odunze being 14 spots higher in my personal rankings, and Rome Odunze being higher in the master ADP across all sites. Jordan Addison also a great value in round 7. The round 7 avoids will be Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, Justin Fields, and Jaylen Warren. And again, what I am noticing in these Yahoo drafts is people are drafting their starting running backs, their starting wide receivers, and they go, okay, I filled out my lineup there. Let me grab my quarterback. Let me grab my tight end. And for that reason, like these guys are just horrible values in round 7. They're way closer to the quarterbacks that you're going to get at the end of your draft, like Trevor Lawrence or Tua, than they are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. So get Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson in either round 3 or wait until the very end of your draft and go 0 QB. Round 8, we are going to have Jawan Jennings, Stephon Diggs, continued trend of wide receiver values being massive in the late rounds. Round 8 avoids are going to be Evan Ingram, Tucker Kraft. You can just wait a couple more rounds, get a similar tight end production. Round 9 targets are Jacoby Myers, Deebo Samuel, Josh Downs. Round 10 target, Matthew Golden. Round 11, Michael Pittman Jr., Cooper Kupp. And round 12, Emeka Egbuka. So here's what I really want to point out with the overall values and avoids. In the middle rounds, you should not be going quarterback or tight end. You should either go with your quarterback, tight end early at the top of the elite players or at the very end of your draft. Running backs are going to be pushed up in Yahoo drafts in comparison to where they should actually go. It's going to be very easy to find wide receiver values later. And for that reason, maybe you should consider taking Bijan Robinson in round 1, taking Saquon Barkley round 1, taking Jahmyr Gibbs round 1, taking Ashton Jeanty, taking Devon Achane, Derrick Henry at the 1-2 turn. Go get the elite level running backs with the expectation that the wide receivers that you're going to be able to bring in round 7, 8, 9 are phenomenal. Like if you can go wide receiver round 9, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver round 8, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver round 7, Rome Odunze, wide receiver round 10, Matthew Golden, you just spent no capital whatsoever and you have a phenomenal wide receiver room. So get your running backs early, get an elite quarterback or tight end early. And if you don't get the elite quarterback or tight end early, wait until the very end of your draft. But the middle rounds should be wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver on Yahoo, specifically round 7 through 10. But let me get in a mock draft so I can show you exactly how this is done using one of the draft sheets that we have posted on flogfantasy.com. All right, let me show you exactly how easy it is to go ahead and dominate some people on Yahoo. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using our 12-team Yahoo single flex ADP draft sheet. This is going to account for Yahoo ADP, the master ADP, and my personal rankings to average it out and give us a big board that should be very, very useful if we are trying to just crush the people in this draft. I will say, a little bit of a complaint. Took freaking 20 minutes for this thing to fill. I can see why so many of y'all are doing the mock drafts on flogfantasy.com at this point. The public mock draft lobbies that we have on flogfantasy.com fill incredibly quick, super easy to use, way better ADP list, way tougher drafts against people who legitimately know what they're doing. And these are completely free. I'll leave a link in the comment section. I just wanted to make sure that I can prove to you that these Yahoo drafts are ridiculously easy to dominate if you have a good draft sheet. And obviously, we know our rankings, we know our targets, we know our avoids based off Yahoo's ADP. And I think we should get some phenomenal values here, especially in the middle rounds. Now we are on the clock using our draft sheet. We can see that clearly Puka Nacua is the best player available on the board. I am the highest in my rankings. He is the highest with the ADP across all sites. Nico Collins goes higher in Yahoo drafts, but that's not something that you should be listening to here. So we will go ahead and we will just take Puka Nacua as the first pick at the end of round 1. And honestly, we may get an elite wide receiver making it back to us. We will see, because there should be 2 other running backs that are really interesting that we can take at pick 15. Yep, this only gets easier. Here we're going to be able to take Ashton Jeanty at the 203 in this draft. I can't imagine the values that we're going to be able to get near the end of this. I really like also starting with the very balanced approach of Puka Nacua, Ashton Jeanty, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. And Ashton Jeanty was by far and away the highest graded player on our board here, just like Puka Nacua was. So now we are on the clock. The best available players, according to our rankings, are either going to be Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson. You can really choose whoever you want between those 2 options. We've had some negative buzz surrounding Tyreek as of late, so I almost want to go ahead and take Garrett Wilson here. And honestly, I'm not going to be able to do it. We will just take Tyreek, and we'll hope that the situation gets sorted out in Miami. Yep, so this only gets easier, and this is why it's so important for us to be including the Yahoo ADP when we're going through and making these draft sheets, because the other player I would have considered in round 3 would have been Garrett Wilson. However, given our power ranking had Tyreek ahead of him, we just decided to wait, and we still end up getting Garrett Wilson here in the 4th round. And now we have Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, and we have Ashton Jeanty at running back. This is a team you would never be able to draft on flogfantasy.com. There's no way that those draft rooms would let you have this value. Yeah, so yet again, this is going to be super easy for us. We are going to get to take Rashee Rice here at the 5'10", and maybe you're worried about the suspension, but at the end of the day, if we are sitting here with Rashee Rice as our 4th wide receiver in this draft, Frankly, it does not matter if he misses the beginning of this year. We just need to have the elite level ceiling in the second half of the season. So we are on the clock again, and you'll see the best players available are actually the wide receivers with Sutton, Zay, etc. on our board. If you're looking at the ADP of Yahoo at the moment, it's like Tony Pollard, Caleb Johnson. But I'm going to reach. We're going to take Trevion Henderson. Trevion Henderson's the second highest graded player on our big board at this point, but I think it's safe to take him ahead of what you have with maybe Joe Mixon with the Joe Mixon foot injury. So at this point, the highest players on our board are going to be two wide receivers yet again with Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy. Now, because we already have the potential suspension when we're looking at Rashee Rice, I'm going to take a player that should be playing at the beginning of the season with Jerry Jeudy here as our wide receiver 5. And we have plenty of wide receiver depth at this point where, again, if Rashee Rice were to get suspended, frankly, it does not matter for us. So Chris Godwin gets sniped. He would have been the best player available, but realistically, we're not going to take a wide receiver here with us already having 5. We're going to go back to the running back position, and we are going to be taking the running back for the New York Giants, who's the highest graded on our board at this point. And with Tracy, what makes a lot of sense is, while maybe Scadaboo has a role near the end of the year, we need his early season work just in case Trevion Henderson isn't ready to go week 1. So we're on the clock, and unless I miss something, I think we have 2 free values for us with a combination of Ricky Pearsall and Josh Downs. Now, Josh Downs, I can see here, maybe I missed Pearsall getting drafted. Yes, he did get drafted. But Josh Downs, by far and away the best player for us. Travis Etienne would be the best running back. But nope, Etienne got drafted as well. Damn, it is hard to see what's going on when you're in Yahoo. We'll take Josh Downs here for the value, and we're probably going to be done drafting wide receiver at that point. So again, I'm hesitant because it's so hard to look at a Yahoo draft screen. I'm used to flogfantasy.com, but if we're looking at the best running backs, Zach Charbonnet, if he is available, would be an absolute no-brainer here as a running back that if an injury were to occur to Kenneth Walker, who is banged up right now, Charbonnet turns into a league winner. So we're going to take Zach Charbonnet as our running back 4. And we have been able to just hammer wide receivers and running backs. We are sitting with Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Downs at wide receiver. Not going to need to draft another. And honestly, we could probably trade one of these guys when Rice gets back. And then at running back, we have Ashton Jeanty, Trevion Henderson, Tyrone Tracy, and Zach Charbonnet. So we are back on the clock again, and then at this point, we are really only going to be looking at a handful of positions, which are going to be quarterback, tight end, and running back. We cannot take any more wide receivers. Quarterbacks, you have Stroud, Lawrence, Matthew Stafford. Running backs, we're sitting with White, Bichelle, Tootin, Jerome Ford, Trey Benson. And then tight end, you have Hunter Henry, Loveland, Kyle Pitts. If you look at our draft board, we are going to have Loveland as the highest graded out player at this point, and grabbing Loveland as our tight end 1 after Jonnu Smith is off the board is honestly laughable that you can get this kind of value. Judkins off at the 1202. I actually really do like that pick, whoever made it. But now going back over and looking at what's going to be available to us, I think we're going to go with our highest graded out quarterback as our QB1. We're going to take 2 of these guys and probably stream. But our best available quarterback would actually agree with Yahoo ADP here, and we are going to be getting CJ Stroud. So now we can go ahead and we can actually pull up our team, and you can get a sense of it that we have the starting lineup filled out. We have Stroud at quarterback, wide receiver Puka, Tyreek, running back Jeanty, Trevion Henderson, tight end we have Loveland, in the flex we have Garrett Wilson, and then down there on the bench, we have Rashee Rice, Jerry Jeudy, Tyrone Tracy, Josh Downs, and Charbonnet. So obviously banking on a lot of this upside on our bench at wide receiver and running back, eventually hitting our starting lineup. So we're back on the clock. Only thing available to us is really going to be quarterback, running back, and tight end. Looking at the best available quarterback, it would be either Tua or Michael Penix. They're very close on our sheets. Running back, Tyler Algier, Dylan Sampson, Austin Eckler, Braylon Allen. Nobody really stands out. And then going over and looking at tight ends, you have Zach Ertz, Chig, Brenton Strange. So really, I think we can just play it safe and take a quarterback here. And we are going to go with Michael Penix And we actually ended up getting auto drafted. So that is just great. And we got auto drafted Tua, so it's not the end of the world. Tua versus Michael Penix, like I said, they were very, very close on our sheets. Now, going over and looking at what we have with our next pick, I think we're going to go back to the tight end position. And here, really, the only guys in play for me would be Isaiah Likely, Zach Ertz, Chig. Given the fact that we have Loveland, I'm probably going to opt to go with the tight end that I think can produce at the beginning portion of the year and hope that we get Loveland's upside hitting our lineup later. So we will take Zach Ertz at the 1403. Isaiah Likely would be higher in our draft sheet. The issue with Isaiah Likely on this build is with the injury, you don't know if he's going to be available at the beginning of the season, which is when I would want to start him for this team. I was hoping Yahoo was going to have something similar to flockfantasy.com where they actually had a league analyzer at the end of our draft. Sadly, we don't have that, I guess, on Yahoo. So we're just going to have to look at the team with how it stands right now. I really do like it. Obviously, we don't have a kicker, but if Rashee Rice gets suspended, we can throw him on the IR. We'll have an open roster spot where we can pick up a kicker at the very start of the year. So really love this team. And again, I think using those draft sheets, you're going to be able to find that you can get super strong values such as Garrett Wilson in the 4th, such as Rashee Rice at the 5'10", Trevion Henderson at the 6'03", Josh Downs at the 9'10". And if you're looking at my rankings straight up, maybe you see, oh, Josh Downs may be ranked ahead of Tyrone Tracy. But a big thing that we do with those draft sheets is we take into account the ADP for the platform that you're drafting on. That way you're able to get that crazy value with a bunch of these players, as we already discussed. Now, if you wanted practice drafts, I definitely recommend doing it on flockfantasy.com. Much, much better experience than trying to do a practice mock draft on Yahoo, I'll tell you that much. And you can actually draft in public lobbies on flockfantasy.com here with the 2025 drafts, or you can do a draft simulation where you actually draft against bots, whatever you prefer. But I really hope I was able to help you out with this if you draft on Yahoo. Again, we have those Yahoo draft sheets on flockfantasy.com posted, and you actually can get an incredible deal at the moment. We've never done anything like this, but a $34 season pass to flockfantasy.com gets you access to everything, including the trade calculator, trade finder, rest of season ranks, weekly ranks, all the draft sheets from myself and all the other creators, not only for the beginning of the year, but all the way through January 1st. It's both the best product you can ever find for fantasy football and at the cheapest cost as well. But if you use code FLOCK, I'll be answering your start sit questions and your trade questions for free throughout the year. But I appreciate you. Really hope I can mock draft you on flockfantasy.com later tonight in the live stream, and hope you have a great day.